This is how to lift and fit larger tires on a Gen 3 RAV4. It is a 2008 V6 ZR6 variant in Australia. The suspension is Dobinson 30mm lift. The front one C59438 and the rear C59439. The tires will be upsized from stock 225 65 17 to 245 65 17. We will measure the distance between the arch and the lower rim to have a baseline on what this is currently at, and after we lift it. This is quite an old car, so the original suspension is already sagging. Starting with the rear left, and it is measured at approximately 69.5 centimeters. The rear right is 68.9 centimeters. Front left is 69.8 centimeters. Front right is 70.5 centimeters. First step is to check up and secure the car. We'll start with the rear first. Remove the sway bar link connection. Remove the two bolts holding the shock breaker, not the shock breaker bolt. These two. Check up the car and remove the lower arm bolt from the back, not from the front. So this is a 17mm bolt, because you will not be able to turn the 19mm nut on the other side. You need to support the lower arm using a separate jack. Let go of the jack slowly and lower the lower arm. So now you are able to access the stock spring. We will remove it and put the new Dobinson spring. Also good to note is the orientation of the end of the spring. So just memorize where that should be. Usually there is some kind of groove where it ends, and keep the rubber or replace it if it's already worn. So it was actually quite easy to remove the spring. What I did was just push this lower arm down and pull out the spring from here. So now we can see the stock spring. So let's compare the stock spring with the Dobinson spring. In terms of length, it looks roughly the same, but upon checking, the Dobinson spring thickness is approximately 1.6 millimeter, sorry, 1.6 centimeter, and the stock spring is 1.45 centimeter. So the Dobinson would have been more stiffer and it would give more height. To install the spring, make sure that The larger opening is at the bottom and fits the rubber. So the top and the bottom, they are not the same diameter. So the larger one goes to the bottom. And then just push the lower arm using your feet and drop in the spring. Once the spring is in place and aligned properly, just check up the lower arm. Make sure that you align the sway bar hole and the mounting for the knuckle here. Once everything is installed, just reverse the process to put back or install the lower arm bolt, torque it properly, put back the connection for the shock breaker, and remove the temporary jack. And that should be it. So it's quite simple actually. Just need to remove literally 4 bolts. So next is to do the other side. Just a quick comparison. The left one is 245 65 17 and the right one is the original 225 65 17, and how they look. Now we start to disassemble the front wheel to replace the spring. Check up the car and secure it using safety mount. To remove the whole shock assembly, we will remove these 2 bolts, but before that, remove the sway bar link bolt and remove the ABS mounting plate as well as ABS line clip here. Also, the brake line does not need to be removed, but we'll see whether it will hamper the access to these bolts. Note that the rubber has disintegrated, so we will replace that as well. Check up the lower control arm so the assembly doesn't fall off when we remove these 2 nuts. Once the 2 nuts are removed, pull out the 2 bolts and you can just move the assembly a bit to the right, still under the jack so it doesn't fall off. And now we are going to undo the bolts at the top and pull out the shock assembly. Undo the 3 mounting nuts and the shocks will just fall off to the bottom, so be careful when you do that. Take out the rubber cover and undo just slightly while it is still under tension the nut at the top. Just be very careful to not undo that the whole way because it will just fire off while it is under tension, so it is a bit easier. To remove the spring from the assembly, you will need a spring compressor tool. Once the spring is compressed sufficiently, you can see that it's very easy to take out the top head and then replace the rubber protection assembly, which already is disintegrated, and put in the new spring. Take note of the order of the assembly. There's a plate on the top head, the rubber cover, there's a spacer, the top head itself. There's actually a bearing mechanism here, so make sure you got no dirt inside. The replacement rubber about KYP or Kayaba branded hopefully will last, because the eBay one didn't last very long. It is a good time to re-grease the bearing while you have it outside as well. Again, comparing the stock RAV4 spring with the Dobinson 30mm lift spring, the actual length are actually the same, and the stock one is actually just slightly thinner, so at 1.4 centimeters, and the Dobinson is 1.55 or 1.6 or 1.5 millimeter centimeter, so not much difference. Again, this is the spring for 2008 3.5 V6 RAV4, so C59438. Next, compress the new spring. Be very careful when doing this, it's a lot of tension. The trick is to make sure when you're compressing that the spring is parallel to you, so if something happens, it doesn't fly to your position. Put the new rubber boot protector and put the stopper into the shock and then insert the shock. Now that we have completed the assembly, we can put back the spring from the bottom and start putting on the nuts at the top. Tighten the 3 nuts at the top, put back the rubber cover, and put back all the connections for the brake and the ABS line. Make sure you torque correctly these 2 bolts, and that should be done. Only need to put the new tires on. I completed the install and did a bit of test drive. Just a few quick impressions. And this is waiting until the spring to settle in a week or so. Basically, the larger 245, 65, 17 tires actually corrected the speed. So it used to be that the speedometer is about 5 over, and now it is perfectly matched, if not 1 or 2 kilometers away if compared to a GPS. About the acceleration, the larger 245 tire do cause a bit of sluggishness, but considering this is a 3.5 V6, it is still a very quick car. You could feel it, but to be honest, not much. The look and the stance of the car is actually very good. The 245 doesn't look too big. It looks actually quite neutral. And in fact, if I had put the original 225 6517, it would look too small. So very nice. Now we're measuring the height or the additional height due to the suspension change, noting that it will settle in a week or 2. It is now at 73.7 for rear left, so that's already quite a big increase from 69.5 before. For the right rear, it is 73.7, so very similar. For front left, it is 72.8. So the car is a bit higher at the back, a few millimeters, which is actually great for driving. And finally, the front right is 72.8 again centimeters, so perfect match. So unfortunately, I forgot to measure the height of the front of the car before the suspension change or lift, but it is now 31 centimeters with the lift, and a larger tire. So overall, this is a very good lift combination. Dobinson 300 millimeter lift plus 245 65 17. And next, we'll see what the long-term effects are regarding fuel consumption and whether there will be scrapping. So far, there is no scrapping, full lock, but I will need to test that off-road when the car articulates. Thank you. So I did quite a big drive from Melbourne to Bendigo yesterday to test the fuel economy. So what I've taken note is on the way, which is 234 kilometers, which was city plus freeway driving, it returned 12.2 liters per 100 kilometer. So quite a bit of traffic in Melbourne. And then freeway all the way to Bendigo. And for the return trip, it was 270 kilometers. Almost all freeway except bit of gravel driving, and it returned 10.9 liters per 100 kilometers. And and the total, if you add and average them, was 504 kilometers with a total of 11.5 liters per 100 kilometers for the whole trip. So basically it had lost about 1 liter to, or maybe half a liter per 100 due to the larger 24565 17 tires, and tires also all terrain plus the 30 mil Dobinson lift kit. Thank you.